Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome. I'm back to do another video of Turntable Currents and stuff that I've been listening to this past week or so. Just an array of different things. Nothing too focused, as you'll see. Some of the stuff is just kind of everyday. Heard it on the radio, grew up on the radio kind of stuff. I personally haven't really listened to local radio unless it's kind of like an underground show or something. Probably good for 20 years because I was always playing my CDs, MP3, iPod, tapes, all kinds of stuff, cassette tapes. Depends what car I was driving, I guess. What I don't like, man, is newer cars. Who said not to put a CD player in there anymore, man? So I find myself, I've got the USB port. I have a USB stick in there with the library music, but I have, I also carry a Discman with me for the purpose of if I want to listen to an album, or mostly if I'm out record shopping or shopping and I find a CD. I don't want to wait to get home. I want to listen to it, so I have the plug-in, runs on batteries usually. I don't think I have a charger for it, but I'm doing it old school, man. I'm a child of the 90s, so that's what I did. We had the Discman and anti-skip and all that, and I've got that, and so I dug it out and I keep it in my car, and that's just the way it is, man. It's always with me, and hopefully I remember to have batteries. But like I said, I haven't listened to the radio in a good probably 20 years. It just they kill it, man. I mean, it's just we in the 90s here in my home area, radio was a big deal. It had a resurgence, kind of became exciting again because there were artists, like new artists, that would come through town and play on these shows. Like we had alternative rock station that was really good at that in the early 90s through really 95, 97 maybe. But radio became important again, and there was a lot of these DJs that go out with these concerts, concert tickets. You would go stand in line to get concert tickets. That whole almost missed, era for someone like me that enjoys to have the ticket stub or enjoys to have the media. But yeah, I remember back in the 90s, we had one radio station here that, the Cranberries were a brand new band, and they put out like a sessions, and I remember getting that for Christmas one year. Sessions of all these different big bands that would come through, and just playing acoustically or just a jam in the studio. And I remember the Cranberries. That's where I discovered, she played a acoustic version, just her and the guitar of "Linger," and it's really beautiful, man. And that was the early '90s. So they were still a small band, and the Cranberries, and touring and doing all that stuff, and playing these clubs. It was just a good time. And so back to my thing is, I haven't listened to the radio, so some of these songs were just killed for me when I did listen to the radio, and I don't ever want to hear them again. But as years go on and I don't hear them, I don't seek them out, they're welcomed. It's like I put on some of these albums that easily you could find in a dollar bin. I don't know these days, but easily, dollar bin records. It'll probably, some of these were dollar bin records in my collection. But it was good to hear an old song that was a staple of the radio. It's still a staple. 40 years on later, it's still, and that's where I think these corporations, when they came in, soulless corporations, and they got rid of DJs, and it was just all programmed and all that stuff. I became uninterested because it was like there was no soul. It was kind of like the movie The Airheads, when they're a heavy, I don't know if they're a heavy metal, heavy rock station, and then they're going to turn into like a new age contemporary jazz. You know, that's kind of how I see how the business kind of went that way. And you know, I tried satellite radio for a little bit because it came with my car when I got it. You know, and I paid for it for I think a year, but it was just the same. You know, they would have some good shows here and there, but it was just like enough. You know, I don't want to hear it. It's just the same freaking songs that I'm paying for that I could just get for free on the radio. So, anyways, I'm still discovering. You know, this late on in my life, I'm still discovering bands. You know, the albums are 50, 60 years old. I'm still discovering, and I love it. Um, and it's just fresh to me. So, anyways, there's no rhyme or reason to this eclectic stack right here of just different music. I guess the reason is because I love it and I have it in my collection for a reason. It's part of my soundtrack, my life soundtrack. And you know, some days you want to hear something spiritual or something world music or jazz or country or rock, psychedelic. You know, I have these days where it's all I want to listen to is psychedelic music, and I've got a lot of it. And I just you know, that's my main core of music, really. You know, I love sound, I love sight, the feeling, psychedelia. Um, so that's, you know, for many years, that's all I listened to and sought out and just really immersed myself in, studied it, and still discovering it. You know, I'll come across stuff that, you know, I've never found, and there it is, you know. So it takes time, you know, it takes time. And I'm not one of these guys either that just wants to go buy everything to resell. I have a hard time, you know, even trading or sending somebody something out of my collection because I buy it because I like it. I'm not a seller. I'm not one of these people that, you know, just want to sell and buy stuff. And, you know, I would be probably, you know, I still have that dream of that record store, but I'd probably be one of the worst ones because I'd want to keep everything because, you know, it just means something to me. And it's, you know, in the end, it's only stuff, but, you know, it's just cool to have, man. It's cool to touch and you know, the whole touching an album and going through it and just falling in love with it and just getting lost and escape with it. You know, that's what I dig, man. I still get turned on. That's still a real thrill to me. And of course, if you got people to share it with, and they're interested and they want to learn or be, you know, or me to be taught, you know, when you have that common connection, and you can sit back in someone's, you know, space cave, you know, like this, and just get lost in conversation and have that in the background, you know, or just, hey, we're gonna study this, we're gonna listen, you know. That's real beautiful, and I really love that feeling, you know. But as we get older, people disappear, people aren't interested. Um, like a lot of people I know, friends locally, they're not into this at all, man. And it's a shame because we all started, but you know, people have their reasons and get married and kids and all that stuff. But you know, I look at that as kids and stuff, like as an opportunity to be be the wizard, man, be the guy that teaches them, the teacher, you know, and it'll catch on, you know. But anyways, enough of that. We're kind of listening to. I kind of play this every once in a while in my videos, but it's something I bought a couple years ago when it came out, and I really dig it. It's kind of a compilation of sort, 5-disc CD compilation. I think I'm going weird. This is 1966 through 1968 art. Excuse me. The original artifacts from the British psychedelic scene. So, kind of like a Nuggets on the beautiful Grapefruit label, reissue label. They always do a great job at just, you know, discovering things, and then a nice book. So I've got a lot of this kind of stuff in my collection, box sets on vinyl and CD. Of course, you know, like I got the Nuggets box sets, the 80s Nuggets, the 60s. I've got all kinds of stuff, compilations, because some of the stuff is, there were only singles or whatever. But yeah, man, if you ever see that, you know, if you're into psychedelic music, psychedelia, this is the British scene. So, you'll hear it. Hopefully, I don't copyright it. Every time you hear music just way in the back, you can't even hear what it is. There's freaking copyright on your video. And, whatever. So, anyway, I started off when I started listening to some albums. I pulled this one out. This is Alice Coltrane, Lord of Lords, 1972 on Impulse Records. Spiritual jazz that really speaks to me, and just really touches my soul and my vision. I really can relate. This has got Charlie Hayden and Ben Riley on here as well as her group. Going Home in the album, and if you know the Santana Lotus album, I don't know if it was on the studio, but I know it's on the Lotus album. He covered that, and eventually Carlos would do some work with Alice Coltrane. But one of my favorites in my collection of hers. I've got several of her albums, but I wanted to hear this the other day. And then I pulled this out. This is, I think, a German press on Actuel. This is 19. This is kind of free jazz. And I've got and I'll tell you the truth. I like free jazz. I like jazz music. I love jazz music, and but I've got to be in the mood for avant-garde and free jazz. I usually sink pretty well into fusion jazz. Of course, the traditional post-bop era. But when you get to squeaking and everything, if I'm not in the mood, if it's too early in the morning, then the volume goes down a little bit, or I don't play it. But I really like. Regardless, I like this album a lot, and I hadn't heard it in a while, so I put it on. This is a morning album, I guess, and I dig it. So you see that. The Jacques Corsil unit, Wayhead. And I think this came out in 1970. Let me see, I'm not on the top of my head. And this is a French press. With free jazz and French press, man. I believe it was the early 70s, if I'm not wrong, maybe 1969, but I think it was the 70s if I can remember. But anyways, yeah, I pulled that out of my collection. Just different. I kind of just went like this, and I just started kind of going through section. I said, well, I'm gonna listen to this one. I pulled this out. This is American press, but I have a UK press of this, but I wanted to hear this for some reason. This version, it's still the same as the other version, but this was my first version of Pink Floyd Relics, a bizarre collection of antiques and curios. The cover, of course, the face, very psychedelic. But this mostly consists of early Pink Floyd from the Sid Barrett era into the More album. Some of my favorite versions of Pink Floyd were the country early, of course, Piper, the Gate of Dawns, but from Saucer Full of Secrets till it started getting up to metal, Obscured by Clouds. I really, that's a really era that really takes me. It's like a country vibe, country psychedelic vibe of Pink Floyd. And it really takes me on a journey of my youth and just exploring my mind, and so So I'm gonna pull this out. It was just the greatest hits. Sometimes it's good to pull out a greatest hits compilation album and check it out. You know, it's got all the good songs. This one, you know, I remember I got this originally. Let me say this. I originally got this. I was in California, and it was New Year's. It was New Year's, around New Year's Eve. I was there because I was in a drum line. And anyways, I bought this, and of course, careful with that Axe Eugene. I'd already been well saturated into Live at Pompeii, but Julia Dream, man, and Remember a Day, the Nile song, Cirrus Minor, you know, Biding My Time. Just when I hear those group of songs together, it just takes me back. I was in high school, and I just remember just really just feeling those songs. And I had my Discman with me, and I remember being on buses and just walking around in California. And I think I was in Torrance, California for a little bit, LA. But anyways, I just remember hearing that, and it takes me back to a certain time that when I hear those songs. But then once I get a little older, I start exploring more, mind exploring, and of course that was the soundtrack. Then I had this was I opened it. It was a sealed record, early 70s. My group called Guillotine, self-titled, but I had this sealed. It was completely sealed, and so it was cool, man. It was just like, you know, I'm releasing time here, and you know, this is the first time it's ever been played, man. It was on my needle in my space cave in my home, you know. And anyways, this is kind of like soul rock, or not soul rock, like has some blues rock element, you know. Think of Cold Blood, Janis Joplin. Remind me a little bit of Janis Joplin, that raspy. It's a female singer. Real emotion, man. She put some real emotion into the music. I don't know if the song was "I Can't Believe It" or "Jonathan." I just remember, man, it was like agonizing, like pain. I was like, she went through some shit, man. She was going through some shit with, you know. I guess her old man left her, and you know, and it was just like. But I listened to this and really just sat down, and I was like hearing it, man. And so, anyways, this is on Ampex Records. I opened this up, and glad to have it in my collection. Cracked that spine a little bit. And then, man, another band I love, but you know, before I really had, this is a band that I have a lot of their CDs and stuff and their albums, but it turned out I only have 3 of their albums. But it was one of the bands I had never like put in my, you know, my Discogs inventory. And so every time I'd be out with this band, because some of the albums, you know, they're colorful, they're kind of similar in some senses, the art. You know, when I come across the records, I couldn't remember, do I have this or not, you know? And so I'd always pass, but it turns out I had less than I thought I had. So, of course, this was my first intro to the band, as probably many. As a kid, this is my original copy. This was Mountain Climbing on Windfall Records. Leslie West, Corky Lang, Steve Knight, and Felix Papalrotti. Great hard, love that label too. Hard rock, blues rock, you know, tinges of psychedelia. But I pulled this out the other day. I wanted to hear this. All right, I don't know. My camera died on me, so I kept talking. And I was showing a few albums here, so I guess I'll go back, but hopefully it won't cut off. I just noticed the time. It started over, and I was like, wait a minute. So I had to stop. But again, Mountain. I don't know what I previously said, but definitely one of my admired bands, favorite bands, and this album just kicks ass. His band just kicks ass. Leslie West was just a phenomenal guitar player, and you know, I gotta find more of Mountain. I've only got like 3 or 4 of their albums, but now that I've got everything, inventoried, I kind of carry it with me, and when I'm out and I see an album I'm not sure I have or not, I'll know now. So, Mountain. There's an album I hadn't heard in a long time, and I kind of, you hear it's a radio staple songs. They play the same songs over and over and over. Kind of what I was talking about. But I pulled out Eddie Money. This is 1977 self-titled album. Had a few big hits on here. His biggest hits: 2 Tickets to Paradise, Baby Hold On. I can't remember. There was another one on here. Save a Little Room, maybe. In Your Heart for Me. I don't know. I did some covers. You Really Got a Hold of Me. Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star. But great produced album. I don't know how well it did when it came out, but Eddie Money, man. I mean, a staple of American radio. But I can see why this is a well-produced album and sounds great. After all these years, and so kind of brought me back into listening to some of that good old music I grew up on. I had to pull this one out, man. Jailbreak, Thin Lizzy. I listened to a lot of this in high school, so I don't listen to it very often because I dig a lot of their other albums. But another band I need to build my collection of. I don't see many Thin Lizzy albums that are in good condition around, but when I do, I grab them. I try to. This album, man, I think the whole album just sounds great. Jailbreak, Running Back, Warriors, The Boys Are Back in Town, Cowboy Song, Fight or Fall, Emerald. I mean, just 1977, no, 1976. This is on is it Mercury Records? Yeah, Mercury Records, man. So this is this is my first copy I ever got, and one of my earliest buys. I remember finding that, and just, I knew Boys Were Back in Town, but once I got into the rest of it, I was like, whew, there's more to this band, So there's another radio staple for you, you'll hear that, especially Dallas, because the Dallas Cowboys, the Boys Are Back in Town. I remember when they actually won 30-something years ago, back-to-back Super Bowls. That was like their theme song here in Dallas. Another artist that I don't pull out very often, but I have immense respect for, and I really dig him. He's one of my favorites. Listened to him a lot, through growing up, through my dad and his friends, and then I went through my own phase of this artist, but I wanted to pull this one out. Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey, Bruce Springsteen. Big songs, Blinded by the Light. My favorite was always growing up. The Angels, Spirit in the Night. What can I say? 1973 on Columbia. Bruce was finding his voice. He was writing some poetic music, poetic songs, and just the road was about to go on for him, man. It's still going. So, I was glad to pull that out. Here's an album that I love. This band I love, and I listened to this a few times back to back. I can't remember. This is 1969, I think, on Mercury Records. But just the feeling of this, man, it's just like, I feel Texas. I feel that scene. I feel summertime. It's kind of a summertime record to me, and I really like it, man. I just love the sound of this band. Sir Douglas Quintet. This is Mendocino on Smash Mercury Records. Just a great album, man. Just get your foot tapping, man. You're singing these songs. It's just a dun, 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 dun. Mendocino, but at the crossroads, I like. There's a song called Texas Me, and yeah. So if you ever come across that, Doug Shum and Augie Meyer. They went on to do Texas Tornadoes in the 80s. This has also got John Perez, Harvey Reagan, and Frank Morin. Can't read that. But yeah, another cool album I have in my collection that I absolutely love. Don't ever see it, man. I don't ever see this out in the wild. I don't see much from this band, surprisingly. I wanted to pull this out, man. I just love, I was kind of, as you kind of see, the music kind of flows together, but I just love early country music. They don't make it like they used to, and Here's an Artist is still going. I believe this is the second album, 1968 on RCA. This is Dolly Parton, Just Because I'm a Woman, and it's got a right up here from Porter Wagner on the back, but just the sound, the feelings. You know, I think about family, grandparents. I think about you know, it was a much simpler time, man, and you know, it wasn't all bad. You know, people have their feelings and whatever about country music and all that, but I'm not the biggest fan, but I have my favorites of who I like to listen to, and you know, sit back, drink a beer, barbecue a little bit, you know, whatever. But definitely a great album, and I always like artists like this, like Willie Nelson is another one that I'm trying to complete all his earlier albums, you know, from the '60s, and when I find these, like, you know, I do have like some early Waylon Jennings albums and stuff like that. I want to get it and have it in my collection, listen to them and enjoy them. But you don't see many early Dolly Partons, at least I don't. But when I see them, try to pick them up. Went into, you know, just music kept flowing. Went to kind of reminiscent mode. This was one of my favorite. I talked about it. Grateful Dead, Working Man's Dead. I really love this album. It just, the feeling, the blues, you know, folk feeling of this album. I have a lot of memories. Back roads, Texas summers, hanging with friends, you know, just feeling the mood, man. And those days, you know, they seem to be far and wide these days, you know, and so it's good to go back and just, even if I'm by myself, you know, my wife really likes this album as well. Been going through, listening to a lot of Dead lately, of course. Starts off with Uncle John's Band, High Time, Dire Wolf, love that, love it. Cut off again, I caught it. I don't know if I'm running out of memory or what, but New Speedway Boogie, Cumberland Blues, Black Peter, Easy Wayne, and Casey Jones. The first five, I believe the first 5 albums. But yeah, got a few copies, but pulled this one out the other day. Album I haven't heard in forever, but another one that I just randomly pulled out. John Fogerty, Centerfield. Another great album, man. You know, you hear that Creedence song. This is the album that his management, I guess his manager, sued him for copying himself. The Old Man Down the Road. Centerfield, of course, and then the famous Zans Can't Dance was kind of like a FU song to his management. You know, he was kind of, you know, he had Mr. Greed. I'm sure that was probably about him too. But just well played, you know, album, produced well, produced probably by John Fogerty, arranged, produced. So, you know, I really like that. That's probably, I remember that album came out and it was real big, and always reminded me of just a summertime album, you know. So, yeah. Pulled this out. I listened to all these today. I finally have a complete, even though this is a 2007 repress, it's a Swedish repress, and I really like this band. I have originals of their other ones, but I've had this, you know, it's funny because I had this on CD for a long time, and the only one I had, and then this is the last vinyl that that I had found. Uh, this is Quintessence in Blissful Company, 1969. Spiritual Psychedelia. Um, this is a 2000 press of the 1969 album. Comes with a nice booklet. Um, but I discovered this many years ago, and I think originally this was on Island Records, and this is on Tapestry Records. Um, but I discovered this a long time ago, and I said, man, this is kind of, I started getting into the more folk, spiritual psychedelia realm, and, further, the mind, spiritualness, and, this isn't too lost. I mean, it's not too where people look at that cover and say, oh man, it's just going to be Hindu music or, whatever it is, sitars and stuff. Yeah, there's sitars and stuff, but, they rock out on this album. And, like I said, I've got their other two. They had 3 albums. And another great album that I just wanted to pull out and groove to it today. Pulled this one out. This is 1976, I think. On United Artists Records. This is the Groundhogs, another one of my favorite, and one band that I think is overrated or underrated, and they're overlooked. The Groundhogs. This is Black Diamond, and blues rock, hard rock. T.S. McPhee, guitarist, songwriter, vocals. I really enjoy this band. I think the first album I ever got from theirs was one with the comic book cover. I think that was the first album I ever bought. Could be wrong. Like, is it God Save Us? I can't remember what the title on the top of my head right now, but another band, like if you ever see, I'm still missing a few. If I see them or anything remotely related, definitely get it. But great band, man. Great band. This band kicks, man. He's a great, phenomenal guitarist as well. Pulled this out. This is another band that I got to grow my collection. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of, but this is a UK or German press of UFO live, 3rd album, I think. It was already a live album, and early UFO I really, really love and jam out. 1972. Still have the original price tag, $4.50 on it. I've kept that on there, and red Decca label. But another band. This is more like blues rock, heavy rock. This album, Come On Everybody, starts off with Eddie Cochran song, Loving Cup, Butterfield, and they just rock out. Sometimes that's all you need to do. Here's a band that only put out 1 album. This is a psychedelia. This is a promo copy. Just beautiful condition. And but I remember getting this and like, wow, I don't only see it in books and stuff. I don't ever see it. I don't think I've ever seen it since I bought it. This is Plus, an original 1960. Beautiful copy of the die cut there and it's also promo of this band. This is kind of a concept album of the seven deadly sins. This is on Probe. Same label, Soft Machine, the early Soft Machine. But it's kind of like a psychedelic Gregorian chant, almost to parts of some of the songs. They kind of resemble or sound like Badfinger, in some sense. But it kind of just, I like it, man. Tony Newman and Mike Newman. Tony's played guitar, and Mike was the drummer, brothers. And I believe Tony, he played with the Jeff Beck group at one point. So their production, their producer and their management, Ray Singer and Simon Napier Bell, they were known, and they put out this album. I believe they were a British. This was a British group. But it's the theme, and it has some dark themes. You know, you got some organ, and you know, it can get heavy and then it gets light. But very welcomed in my collection here, my psychedelic collection, and you know, one being the fabulous condition this is in. I mean, just you know, no ring wear or anything. So yeah. And the last one I guess I'm going to show. I got to piece this video together somehow. This is a promo radio white label promo from Paul Parrish. This is 1971 album called Songs, and I guess the best way to describe it is it's kind of like singer-songwriter, folk rock, folk acoustic, real nice, quiet album. Beautiful words, just beautiful, you know, beautiful, almost poetic on some of these songs. But I sat here and listened to this tonight and just kind of just read the lyrics. You know, I sat here in the space cave on my couch right here. Which whenever I do, I'm gonna do a room tour. I'm gonna tell you about this beautiful find that I've been searching for years. Anyways, this is my Chesterfield, vintage Chesterfield, blood red. But anyways, I sat back here on the Chesterfield here and read the lyrics, man, as the album played, and then I came to a song called Nathan, and kind of real related, you know, not just by my name, but you know, kind of the outcast, you know, came to this town, you know, and then he turns out, excuse me, he's from space, man. He's from space, and you know, people didn't understand him, and you know, tried to cast him out. You know, you don't sound like us, you don't look like us, you don't think like us, you know, and kind of, man, it was like, damn. You know, there's some good songs on here, man. He kind of has a falsetto, I don't know if falsetto, that's the right word. His voice sustains a little bit, kind of like Barry Gibb, maybe, early Bee Gees, you know, kind of just, you know, he had an album, it was really psychedelic, and before this, but he has several albums, but anyways, yeah, I really like this album too, so check that out, Paul Parrish. But anyways, that's all I got to show, man. Hopefully this is, once I get it all pieced together from all the camera dying, that it's not real long. But I hope everybody's doing well. As always, thank you for your comments and your subscriptions to the new people. Thank you. You know, I hope you enjoy it here, and I can continue to do this. You know, and I'm on a roll, so I haven't given up yet. And I think about, you know, what can I do next and talk about, and you know, I want to be, you know, just do my own thing here. So you know, thanks for watching, and you know, I'm out there watching. I'm starting to get back to watching some videos, you know, especially right before I go to sleep. Helps me relax. It's comforting. So cut off again, sorry. Drives me crazy. So anyways, hope everybody's doing well. Take care, and I'll see you on the flip side. Peace.